We call ourselves a democracy because we believe that everyone has equal opportunity. But what if I told you that those of us who were born in New Jersey, especially North Jersey, had an unfair advantage? According to USA.com, New Jersey has the second best education in the country. And frankly, this is because we're a rich state. 60% of adults in New Jersey earn more than the nation's median income. With superior education, us New Jerseyans have an advantage when applying to colleges, landing internships, and eventually obtaining high-paying jobs. Unfortunately, kids who grow up in poorer states, like Mississippi and Nevada, are not given the same opportunities as us because of low-quality education. This is significant because our nation believes that people's successes should come from their hard work and merit, and not from the zip code that they grew up in. We need to provide quality education for all children in America, not just those who are born in rich states, and that can be done through federal funding. Before I dive into my presentation, I'd like to introduce myself. Hello, my name is Daniel Kim. I've done extensive research on this topic. I've written a thesis on education disparity and have visited several underfunded public schools to survey their needs. I hope that by the end of this presentation, I will persuade you to support policies that increase federal funding for American public schools. Now let's talk about some of the problems. Education disparities exist in American public schools because of how they are funded. If you look at the chart on the right, you'll see that 45% of funds come from local revenue and 47% come from state revenue. Only 8% of funds come from federal revenue. This means that a child's education is almost entirely dependent on where they live. Schools in poor states and poor districts lack the necessary resources to educate a person. According to CNN, students at a school in Oklahoma are forced to use outdated, crumbling textbooks due to budget constraints. Many schools also lack desks, science lab materials, and computers. Poorly funded schools have unqualified teachers and counselors. According to Huffington Post, high poverty schools are twice as likely to have teachers who are teaching subjects that they don't have a degree for. Many schools also lack proper counselors to guide students through college application processes. Schools in poor districts also have very limited selection of courses and extracurriculars. They simply cannot provide more than the basic core subjects. This means that students don't have access to classes in foreign language, computer science, statistics, or business. They also don't have access to sports, music programs, or art programs. Now that you know the problems, let's talk about the solutions. First, we need to create public policies that increase federal public school funding. Federal funds can equalize the disparities between schools as it draws from the revenue from the entire nation and not just the localized area. In contrast, policies that favor state funding, charter schools, or private schools will often widen the gap between poor and rich students. Second, we need to increase teacher salaries. A Stanford study discovered that a district-wide increase in teacher salary greatly improved teacher recruitment efforts. A salary increase attracted more qualified teachers with higher degrees and also increased the number of applicants to schools in these impoverished areas. Third, you must ensure that all schools have access to basic resources along with improved technology. The world is increasingly becoming more tech-reliant, and schools need to equip students with tools to survive in a tech-filled world. Students with experience interacting with computers, spreadsheets, and databases are more prepared for today's job market. Lastly, we need to increase the budget for extracurricular activities in school. According to a study in Huffington Post, schools that added arts programs have historically observed an increase in standardized test scores and graduation rates. Sports and arts shouldn't be considered optional for schools as they play an important role in enriching a student's learning. Can you imagine how these schools would benefit from these changes? Well, I can tell you how. We'd have higher graduation rates and more college degree earners across all states in the country. Every student would have access to sports, band, choir, fine arts, and performing arts, and more. The poor would no longer be disadvantaged and have the same opportunities when applying for colleges and obtaining jobs. Even if you don't become super successful in your life, you can be sure that your children will have every opportunity open to them. Finally, we'd have a better educated society overall, and a safer society too, since graduation rates are tied to low crime rates. I have a video showing a teacher talking about the resources that her students could have with proper funding. So now you know how schools in poor areas lack the resources, teachers, and extracurriculars needed to provide students a quality education. And you also know the solutions we can implement to fix these issues. But how can you, as an individual, take action? Well, you can call Congress and let them know that this issue is important to you. You can support policies that specifically expand federal funding and minimize state funding. Finally, and most importantly, you can vote for politicians that aim to provide great education for all Americans and not just those who can afford it. By doing these things, we can live up to our nation's title as a democracy by ensuring that every child has the same opportunities to achieve success and greatness. I want to wrap up this presentation with a quote by Kofi Annan, a former United Nations Secretary General. Knowledge is power. Information is liberating. Education is the premise of progress in every society, in every family. Thank you.